Hi everybody, it's Richard here again, and this is another video I'm going to make. This 2 in 2 days. It's a record for me. I want to talk today about probably one of the most important genres of music in my life, and that's my introduction to popular music way back in the early 70s, and I still love it today, and that's glam rock. Glam rock took over the UK from about 1971 to 1973 and was a huge musical force. It's difficult to actually define glam rock, you know. A lot of it is to do with the dressing up in ridiculous clothes. Some of it's to do with like a stomping beat. It's like the 1950s revivalists but with a more modern sound. But to me there's one word that defines glam rock, and that is just simply fun. It is a fantastic fun genre of music, and it brought to the forefront some great artists who managed to then develop further, whereas with other types of genres as well, it brought some artists that were huge in glam rock but could not get out of the glam rock era and will always be associated with that movement. I'm going to go through actually 10 artists and show a greatest hits album of each of those artists, and where possible a studio album. Now, one thing I will say about glam rock is it's very singles based. In the early 70s, having a hit single was probably more important than having a hit album. And some of these artists who had huge hits were unable to make it in the albums charts, but I'll go through each of them and explain as we go along. Now, I have to say, it was very big in Britain, and it was mostly British artists that had the success. There was a couple of American artists which are going to be included here. I'll include them first. That were able to find success in that genre, but they weren't over in America, only again in Britain. So we'll start off. Who we'll start off with? We'll start off with the only girl. I've seen this girl live, and she was brilliant. Suzi Quatro. Suzi Quatro in Britain had 2 #1 hit singles, Can the Can and Devil Get Drive, plus a host of other singles between 1973 and 1979. This album is as good as you'll get for the hits. She came under the Mike Chapman, Nicky Chin songwriting team, who I always say were the Stock Aitken and Waterman of the 70s, but a heck of a lot better. There's 3 other acts that they wrote for that were huge as well. One will be included here. The other 2, Smokey and Mud, I'm not including because Smokey were more like middle of the road group, whereas Mud were more, although they're associated with glam, they were more rock and roll revivalists with the Teddy Boy Suits and so forth. But this is Suzi Quatro's Greatest Hits, which is a really strong album, and this is her first album. This is a reissue I've got called Saturday Night Special, but effectively it's her first album with a few extra tracks, and she does a really good version of Elvis Presley's All Shook Up on this. And one thing about Suzi, she was married to this guy here, Len Tucky, not Ken Tucky, Len Tucky, and the two of them, they wrote an awful lot of songs for their albums, and they're actually very, very good. So, Suzi Quatro. Next on the list is the other American that was able to do it was Alice Cooper. Well, Alice Cooper at this stage was a group rather than a singer, but I think the whole world looks at Alice Cooper as a singer. 1 #1 hit single with School's Out, but he had also big hits like Elected and my favourite Hello Hooray and No More Mr. Nice Guy, and the other one was Teenage Lament 74. This is actually a very strong album. I don't have anything else by Alice Cooper apart from this. I wouldn't mind getting Billion Dollar Babies to see what it's like. But so I'm afraid this is the only one I can show for Alice Cooper. Next is a guy that was very successful in the late 60s with a band called The Move. But when most people think of him today, they think of one song, actually, the Christmas perennial favourite called I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. He was part of the Electric Light Orchestra. Him and Jeff Lynne formed that after dismembering The Move in 1972, but after the first album he went on to form Wizzard, which were full-blown glam rock. This is the Roy Wood story. This is a double album. This is essential because this takes in The Move as well as a couple of his tracks from ELO, plus the big hits he had with Wizzard. He had 2 #1s with See My Baby Jive and Angel Fingers. He also had a solo career running at the same time as Wizzard. The guy was just burnt out by 1975, and since that's 1975 has only actually released 2 albums. But he is an unsung hero. He still tours today with a big band. So this is the Roy Wood story. This is an essential compilation. The Wizzard album I'm picking is this one. This just goes to show this is Wizzard's Brew. Now a lot of people, whenever they bought this, they thought they might be getting so there's 6 tracks in this. 6 tracks that sound like See My Baby Jive. None of them do. This is heavy, almost jazz infused rock, but still within the whole glam umbrella. There are hints of catchier tunes like Got a Crush About You and the Silly Little Jolly Cup of Tea, but this is a difficult listen. I picked this over the second one, which is extremely easy listen, because I think this is more in the time whenever Roy Wood was actually massive in 1973. This didn't chart very well, neither did the other one. Again, with 3 top 10 hit singles in 73, 2 of them #1s. Why were the albums not charting? Well, it was part of glam rock. Some managed it, some didn't. Next, this is a bit of a surprise, and you think, oh, this guy's not glam rock, wise up. This fella is not glam, but this fella here is probably the most glam of the lot. That's Elton John. Elton John was outrageous with his stage costumes. This is his greatest hit. This sold pocket loads throughout the world, pocket loads in America. But he was still part of the glam rock movement. Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting is a very glam inspired song. Just because he was a lot of his songs were ballads, it doesn't mean that he wasn't glam rock. Watch him on Top of the Pops, watch those glasses, watch his outrageous costumes. It's all part of glam, and you'll see why he has been considered as part of glam rock. It was glam rock that gave him his big break in the UK. He was actually a little bit more successful in the States at the start than he was here. But then in the mid-70s, as glam rock was dying, he was still wearing outrageous costumes. I think in 1975 he was responsible for 2% of all records sold in the world. Now that's a wow, if there ever was a wow. And the album I'll pick for Elton from around that time would be Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only a Piano Player. I don't need to say much about that, but you know, it's the glam influenced ones would be like I'm Going to Be a Teenage Idol, and even Crocodile Rock with its 50s infused sound, which glam rock really is. It's taking the 50s music and modernising it for the early 70s. But strong album, #1 again. Again, he did 2 albums in 73, this and a double album, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, so the guy is prolific. Okay, next up, the arty farty part of glam would be Roxy Music and Brian Ferry. Now, these guys I don't think stayed in glam too long. If if you watch Virginia playing on on YouTube, or even look at the inside covers of their first couple of albums, they dressed ridiculously, especially Brian Eno. But these guys had hit singles up to around 1975, and then they took a break, and then they came back in the late 70s as a sort of very smooth, dancey lounge band with things like Dance Away and Angel Eyes and Avalon and so forth. But this is the original Roxy music, which had hits with things like Virginia Playing, Pyjamarama, Street Life, and All I Want Is You. Of course, Love Is a Drug was a big hit as well. This is a great album. If you know nothing about Bryan Ferry and Roxy music, the early years, this is the album to get. And this is their debut album. This is Roxy music. This is from '72. In America, this included Virginia Playing. Here in the UK, it didn't. This is experimental. Very experimental music. It's hard to get into, but again, there was no specific sound of glam, and this is regarded as a glam rock classic. Next, I am going to pick a band that was saved by Mr. David Bowie, and that's Mott the Hoople. Mott the Hoople were a band of the late 60s. They had released 4 albums. They were having no success whatsoever. They were going to call it a day. Bowie said, no, don't, I'll write you a hit song. He offered them Suffragette City. They didn't want it. They wanted a song called All the Young Dudes, which they took, and it's become, I think, the glam anthem. Ian Hunter is the chief songwriter. Apparently, according to David Bowie himself, he offered them then Driving Saturday as the follow-up, but they wanted, and quite rightly too, to write their own hit single, and their follow-up was Honolulu Boogie, which is great. So you have all the way from Memphis, Honolulu Boogie, All the Young Dudes, of course, and probably the biggest known one apart from Dudes is Roll Away the Stone. Again, this is a great introduction to the latter half, the glam half of Mott the Hoople. Their first 4 albums are great as well, but different type of music. And this is the album which was probably them at their peak, Mott, which features Honolulu Boogie and All the Way from Memphis. This again is a necessity. There's a song on here called I Wish I Was Your Mother, with a mandolin going through it, which is gorgeous. Fantastic album. 1973. Next, I'm going to go for Mr. Bowie himself, and to pick a greatest hits album of his is very difficult because he's had that many. But I'm trying to get one which features a lot of the glam rock hits, and I was going to pick Changes One Bowie, but it's not really a greatest hits. It's more picking, I think, what his favourite songs from the glam era were. But this one here was released in 1990. This is Changes Bowie, which is essentially Changes One, plus a few extra songs, plus stuff after between 1977 and 1984. This features songs like Starman, Gene Genie, Life on Mars, Rebel Rebel. So you are getting Space Holiday, you are getting a good load of the glam rock hits. David Bowie, I don't need to talk any more about David Bowie, but he went on to, he was one of the very few, along with Bryan Ferry, that could escape the glam rock and have a huge solo career with different styles of music and have hits. And the actual glam rock album I'm picking for Bowie, and I think it's his most glam album, is Aladdin Sane. That iconic cover with the 2 massive hit singles in the UK, the Gene Genie and my personal favourite, Driving Saturday. Okay, next we're going to have probably the 3 most successful glam rock bands. But before I do that, there is one singer that is missing from this, which I'm not going to include because he's in disgrace, I think anyone from the UK will know who I'm talking about. All I'll say is that he did have huge hit singles, 3 number ones, big songs like I'm the Leader of the Gang, I Love You, Love Me, Love Rock and Roll, Do You Want to Touch? But his crimes are so despicable, he's not getting into my list. But I'm not going to change history. He was an extremely important part of the glam rock movement and was so popular, really, really popular. His initials are GG, and that's the best I'm going to do for that one. Okay, so I'm gonna put these in what I think are an order of which ones are 3, 2 and 1 are the most popular. And I don't think I've got these albums in order. Excuse me one moment. So, right, let me see. Here we go. Right. Okay, the third most popular glam rock band. They did have a little bit of success in the mid-70s in the UK. They had 1 number 1 hit single here, and they're so unlucky because they had 5 number 2 hits. And this is as good a compilation if you can ever find it. It's the Sweet. Their number 1 was Blockbuster, 5 number 2s. Coco, which is not on here, funny enough. Hellraiser, Ballroom Blitz, Fox on the Run, and 1 other number 2, Teenage Rampage, all number 2s. This is fantastic. This is a great album, and this is a 1980s album. I put this out around 1984, and the thing about Sweet, they were also one of the Mike Chapman, Nicky Chin bands. So a lot of these hit singles were written by Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman, but they also wrote their own stuff, and which were normally B-sides and album tracks. And this is the album I would suggest. And if you, this is heavy. This is a heavy album. This is Sweet Funny Albums. This is their only charting album, and it didn't do that well. The first song, Set Me Free, you would think was Iron Maiden. You really would. It's really, really heavy. And on this is a couple of Chinny Chap ones. We say Chinny Chap because I think that's the name of the company. You have Peppermint Twist, which is the catchy little rock and roll number which they covered. But you have the Mike Chapman Chin written AC/DC, which Joan Jett covered, and covered rather well. But the rest of this album is extremely heavy, and it's a bit of a shock because you're expecting the catchiness of the Sweet Chinny Chap singles, but this is a great listen. This is released in 1974. Hi, back again. Second most successful glam rock group, but not the most popular. I think these actually were the most popular group, but they were the second most successful is T-Rex, Marc Bolan. And it's believed that it's this guy that started off glam rock. He was in band Tyrannosaurus Rex in the late 60s. By the end of 1970 he managed his first hit with Ride a White Swan. The second hit was Hot Love, and he was to perform it on Top of the Pops in 1971, and during whenever he's getting ready, the makeup girl put a little glitter teardrop under his eye, and it was picked up by the viewing public, and glam rock was born. I believe that glitter teardrop was put on by Tony Secunda's wife, but I can't remember her name. It's a funny name like Chicolita or something like that there. But anyway, 4 number 1s, 4 number 2s, a number 3 and a number 4. But his success started waning around the mid 1973. But he has got a huge following now. Never really made it big in America. 1 hit single with Get It On, Bang It On. But here the number 1s were Hot Love, Get It On, Telegram Sam, Metal Guru. And the number 2s were Ride a White Swan, Children of the Revolution, Solid Gold, Easy Action and Jeepster. One of my favourite artists of all time, Marc Bolan, T-Rex. And the album I picked for him is his most, it's not my favourite, but is his most glam album. And that's the Slider, and that features 2 #1 hit singles on this is 1972 album. So who are the most successful group then for glam rock? Chart wise, it's these guys here: Slade, Noddy Holder, Don Powell, Jim Lee and Dave Hill. And Dave Hill was the one, the guitarist, that wore the most ridiculous outfits you could get. But these guys had 6 UK #1 hits. 2 of them, or was it 3 of them, went straight in at #1. I know 3 of them did. Come On Feel the Noise, Squeeze Me Please Me and Merry Christmas Everybody. And the other 3 #1s were Cause I Love You, what's the name of it again, Take Me Back Home, and Mama We're All Crazy Now. Fantastic group, they are really good. Jim Lee is the main songwriter along with Noddy Holder. I think Noddy did a lot of the lyrics, but the musical genius behind Slade was Jim Lee. Huge band, massively successful from 71 to 75. Never did it in America until the 80s, where they had a hit with Run Run Away in about 83, 84, where they had a mini revival, and then they split up in 1990. Now they still tour with just Dave and Don, but it's not Slade without Jim Lee or Noddy Holder. And the album I'm going to pick for them is Old New Borrowed and Blue, a #1 album from 74. This shows how good songwriters they actually are. It's very Beatlesque. Their glamest album would be Slade, which shows them going like that there. But this is one of their better ones, along with their other 74 album, Slade and Flame. So that's Slade, the most successful glam rock band. So that's it. That's my 10 artists from glam rock. Still love it. It's of its time, but I don't think it sounds dated, to be quite honest with you. And I think as the years go by, people actually do appreciate it more. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll talk to you again soon. Right, bye.